Hello and welcome. My name's Andreas, and for the next half hour, I want to take you on a journey into the world of nanomaterials in medicine. This is going to be a journey into an unknown world for most of you. So let me guide you, and let's start with something most of us know: a pill of a pain medication. If you have a pain, typically you take a paracetamol. And have you ever calculated how many molecules you swallow when you swallow a single pill? It's an incredibly high number. You swallow 2 sextillion molecules, a 2 with 21 digits. That's huge. And just imagine the patient, he or she has a pain localized somewhere in the body. And what we're doing by swallowing such a pill is we're flooding the entire organism with a drug. And we expect the drug only to be active at the site where the pain happens and nowhere else. No side effects. That's asking quite too much of that pill, no? Here comes nanomedicine. The goal of nanomedicine is really to treat that disease, that pain, with as little molecules as possible. And the molecules should be given at the exact location where the pain happens. So let's start a wish list. My wish list for nanomedicine. First point, I want to use the drug at the right place. How do we know where the right place is? Well, actually, how much do we know about the human body? Do we know enough to be able to treat diseases with a single drug? That's micromanagement of a disease. And probably in 100 years, people will look back at us and laugh. Maybe what they will be doing is they will ask the body to heal itself. Because the body knows best what it's best for itself. So let's put that on a list. Let the body heal itself. Next wish. I'll take you on a thought experiment. Just imagine that the patient has broken the right arm. He or she comes to the doctor, and they have seen many people with broken arms today, and they all broke the left arm. So they actually treat the left arm because statistically that's the arm they have treated most today. Obviously, that's ridiculous because that's not what you're doing. You take a X-ray and then you know exactly which arm is actually broken. But what we're doing today is we have so many different people, men to women, young to old, and we all treat them with the same pills. In the future, what we will have is personalized medication, a pill that's made exactly for yourself. So this is now my wish list for nanomedicine. I want a drug used at the correct place in the body. I want the body essentially to heal itself, and I want some form of personalized medication. So this is my wish list for nanomedicine. And what is nanomedicine? Nanomedicine is the application of nanotechnology to medicine. You heard about nanotechnology. Nanotechnology is something small. So exactly how small is nano? Let's start with that number we have seen before, the 2 sextillion. If these were meters, how big would that be? That's actually the size of our galaxy. Let's start here and let's go into the world of nano. So we started with 100,000 light years, and now it goes smaller and smaller, if you can call it like that. Astronomical units start to show up our solar system, and here we go, that's our planet. And we go deeper, we see continents, we see cities, and we see people. And now we go smaller than a meter, centimeters, millimeters. And very soon we're going to see the first cells. Here they are. And now we go smaller. Still, we're in the size of micrometers. We go smaller than a cell. We see the cell nucleus, and inside that nucleus we see our DNA, that long molecule, and now we're entering the realm of nano. 100 nanometers. You see, we're really at the size of these DNA molecules. So when we're talking about nanomedicine, we're talking about the medicine that directly interacts with the molecules of life. And how exactly does this nanomedicine look like? Remember, there was a movie that came out in the 60s, and people imagined that by now we would actually go into the bloodstream with spaceships and destroy or repair anything that shouldn't be there. Well, that was 1966. I'll show you how these visions turned out to be not true. 58 years later. That's the most modern robot that I found. You see, this robot catches this sphere, which is a cell, and takes it on a journey. Or you have two robots with two cells. They can make the cells touch each other. These are the most advanced robots we have, and still they're micrometer sized, which means robots will not be the materials that treat our diseases for the next decade. So where are we? We started with a huge number, and we asked ourselves, can't we take less of a drug and use the body to heal itself? And can we use personalized medicine? And then we started from the top of the universe and went down in the nano world and imagined how this world would look like. Now, after this recapitulation, let's go and have a look at real nanomaterials. And again, we start with something you know, soap bubbles. How do you actually make a soap bubble? Well, a soap bubble is made from soap and water, and you need some form of energy to blow that bubble. We use air, but instead of using air, we could use something similar, like this gas SF6. Now we have essentially a soap bubble which has a skin, and this skin is keeping this gas inside, and we have normal air outside. You can imagine that is actually used for a contrast agent. What we see here is a couple of red blood cells and a soap bubble-like molecule constructs that show up in yellow. And just imagine, these could be these soap bubbles filled with that gas. And if you now shine ultrasound on this system, these soap bubbles will actually burst, and you will see what happened. And these are contrast enhancers that are used in modern day ultrasound. I always have difficulties looking at ultrasound pictures. I don't know how you feel about that, but on the left, that's a typical ultrasound, and you see a black segment. These are blood vessels. On the right-hand side, you see the same blood vessel, and now it lights up because there was these ultrasound enhancers given to the patient. And now with ultrasound, these enhancers, these soap bubbles are destroyed and light up, and you see actually inside the bloodstream. And what you see at the arrow is you see two black segments, and these are actually calcifications inside the bloodstream. So the beginning of a heart attack. We started with soap bubbles. A soap bubble filled with air. And let's now change that system. We keep the soap bubble, but imagine that we don't have air inside, but we have water inside. So we have a system where we have water inside, a skin, and water outside. It looks a bit different, but you can imagine it looking like this. A system, a sphere with water inside. We call that a liposome. And what's nice about that system is you can actually put a drug substance inside that liposome, inside that aqueous cavity. And now the drug is actually protected from the harsh environment that typically happens in the bloodstream. And the drug is actually also staying inside that liposome until we destroy that liposome. This is a real nano drug that is used. And this drug is a bit smaller than the one I showed you before. Now it's about a tenth of a red blood cell. So you see these tiny, tiny spheres that I put here next to the red blood cells. That's about the size of a nanomedicament. So we started with a huge number, 2 sextillion molecules that we take, and we asked ourselves, can we actually change the system so that we take less of a drug? And such a liposome, such a soap bubble-like molecule construct that I showed you, is helping you to do that, because now we only have space for about 4,000 molecules inside this liposome. So from a huge number of drug molecules, we go to 4,000 drug molecules. That's nanomedicine. And now we have what we need to go into our wish list. Remember, we wanted to use the drug at the right place. We wanted to let the body heal itself, and we wanted some medication that is only made for myself. And let's start with cancer, with chemotherapy. And I made this picture to remind us what's most important, even though we talk about technology, and that's a human being. We want to help to keep the human healthy. Let's have a look at what happens with blood vessels during cancer growth. When a cancer starts to grow, it needs energy, and this energy it gets from oxygen and nutrients transported by the blood system. As the cancer grows, the cells are actually farther away from the blood system, and the longer the distance between the blood vessel and the cells, the less energy, the less nutrients these cells get. They would actually die off if the cancer wouldn't grow its own blood system. In order to provide energy for all the cells in the cancer, the cancer makes its own blood vessels. But it doesn't do a very good job. In some cancers, these new vessels are actually akin to leaky tubes, like the one here on the left. You see a real picture on the right-hand side where you see holes on the wall of blood vessels. How can we use that? Take a look at this one here, where on the right-hand side we see a agglomeration of cancer cells and a new blood vessel that is built to provide energy for these cells. Now we add a nanodrug, and this nanodrug is circulating in the entire body. And every time we go through the solid cancer, a little bit of that nanodrug is actually leaking out and reaching the cancer, where the liposome will be destroyed and the deadly drug will be released and kills the cancer cells. And such therapies are used today, and they do have advantages over standard therapies. We know that some cancer molecules, when they're encapsulated inside the liposome, can actually be very beneficial for a patient. It's better tolerated, you see much less hair loss and much less immunosuppression. So cancer is a real application field for nanotechnology. And by putting the molecules inside a liposome and let them leak out into the tumor, we actually put the drug at the right place where we need it. And we have seen we get much less side effects. Obviously, as a caveat, I'm oversimplifying it here. The truth is a bit more complex, and some cancers actually don't have that leaky vasculature. So you have to be lucky. Now let's go to the second point. How can we let the body heal itself? You heard about DNA. That's the huge library we have inside our cells. Each cell has the same immense library. And in this library, many things are stored. There are books talking about how to make eyes and legs and hand. So you can imagine how much potential this library actually has for future treatments. We could go in and destroy a single book, or we can add a new book to the library, or we can lend out a book and read it. So let's start on the left-hand side. Why would we destroy a book? Just imagine a bestseller book that all of a sudden invades your entire body. A book printed by the millions and sent out to each and every single cell of your body. We had that a couple of years ago. A book named How to Make a COVID Virus. Once the patient was infected by the COVID virus, the cell was taking these books and were actually creating new virus molecules, new viruses, and spreading the disease. Imagine that we put another book inside a nanoparticle and put that in the human body, and this book says kill the virus. So all of a sudden the cell had another information and started to kill the virus. That's what happened during the vaccination with this mRNA vaccine. These were not liposomes like I picked it here, but for the sake of simplicity, I keep it like that here. So nanomedicine allowed us to destroy one single book, and that saved millions of lives on this planet. And I can already see the new bestseller coming next year, and this is going to be a combination vaccination against COVID and influenza. Let's go back to the library. Let's add a book. Why would we do that? Just imagine that in some patients, the library is not complete. Some important books are missing. For instance, patients with the sickle cell disease, they're not able to make correct white blood cells. They look like these cells on the right-hand side. And these cells get stuck in the bloodstream, causing immense pain. Why not putting a book into the library of cells, showing them how to make a correct red blood cell? This is called gene therapy, and you might think, well, that's future, but it's actually quite done every day. Here are some approved gene therapies in the US And you see that it's a huge list of drugs. And the first one is actually used for treating sickle cell disease since 2017. Let's go back to the library. We can lend out a book and let it be read. Why would we do that? Well, just imagine some living beings on this planet can actually regrow organs or limbs. Can we regrow an organ? Just imagine if someone loses his or her arm, you just make a new one. If the eyesight gets bad, you just make a new eye. If the skin gets old, you just make some new skin. That's probably possible in the future. And it raises an important question. Where's the ethical limit? What if a gene therapy costs 2 million US dollars, but saves the life of a child? Can we do that? Should we do that? Do we really want to spend that much money on a single patient? These are tremendously complicated ethical questions. And a couple hundred years ago, we made a huge mistake because philosophy and natural science actually got torn apart in the Age of Enlightenment. And now we are standing before these tremendously difficult ethical questions. And what we should do is find each other and discuss ethics here. So we have seen that it is possible to let the body heal itself. But with it comes enormous ethical questions. Let's move on to personalized medication. Let's go to cancer. Immunotherapy. We have a wonderful immune system, and this immune system is scanning our entire body. If it finds a foreign cell, it kills it. So you can imagine the immune system is like a key that gets into the locks of foreign cells. Once a key finds a lock, it means the end of the cell. But some cancer cells are actually masking themselves, and they are not detected anymore. So if you put something in each of the locks on the surface of the cell, the key of the immune system doesn't work anymore. But what we can do right now is we can screen the cancer cell if we're not finding an open lock. And we can add a new key into the body of the patient. And that's called cancer immune therapy. And once this key is actually finding the target, the cancer will be destroyed. It starts with a patient donating blood, and you extract immune cells, the T cells from there. And in a factory, you modify the T cells, meaning you add this new key. And now the immune system is equipped with this new weapon and this new weapon is injected back into the patient's body. And we have seen marvelous results with blood cancer in recent years. This is a real revolution in cancer therapy. It's highly specific. That's what we mean with personalized medication. And it has a huge potential for other diseases like atherosclerosis or autoimmune diseases. But it comes at a cost, because right now it takes several weeks to make a medication, and it's more than $300,000 per therapy. So there's an entire industry that produces these treatments. And again, these are ethical questions. How should you prioritize one patient over the other? What do you do with people that can't pay? Now we have reached the last point in our wish list, and I've seen that it's possible to have personalized medication. And this is the end of our journey into the realm of nanomedicine. I have shown you how we can actually liberate a medication in specific parts of the body. I've shown you how we can take advantage of this huge library of information, of DNA we have in our cells. And I've shown you how it's possible to personalize medication. What we need now is an ethical compass to show us what we should do and where the journey will lead us to. It's going to be an exciting journey, and I'm sure that we will embark on other new journeys into the realm of nanomaterials in medicine. Thank you very much. See you next time.